Good morning, students. Once again, welcome back to my class. So, in today's class, we are completing the remaining electrolytes. Among them, the chloride is an important extracellular anion. So, in the previous classes, we have discussed about the sodium and potassium. Now, coming to the next major important electrolyte, that is chloride. So let me read the slide first. The chloride is an main anion of extracellular fluid. Intake and output and metabolism of sodium and chloride run in parallel. So we always knew that the sodium and chloride will having a similar kind of action. They are closely associated with each other, and in the serum the range of chloride will ranges between 97 to 107 milliequivalents per liter. And the point to be noted is, in CSF the quantity of chloride is highest among the extracellular fluid because the protein content in the CSF is low. So to compensate your domain equilibrium, the chloride content in CSF will be high. And next point, the renal threshold value for chloride is 110 milliequivalents per liter, and the daily excretion will ranges between 5 to 8 grams per day. And daily recommended of this chloride will be of 5 grams per day. As we all knew, the sodium and chloride will comes from the common salt. So common salt is a major source of chloride. And coming to the functions of chloride, the chloride along with the sodium, it is important to maintain the osmotic pressure so that the volume of extracellular fluid and plasma will be maintained by your chloride. And next function is a component of your hydrochloride in the stomach. It helps in the formation of your HCl. This HCl is important in your digestion of various food particles. After that, this chloride is also helps or activates few enzymes such as salivary amylase and pancreatic amylases. So coming to the functions of chloride, it is helpful in the maintenance of your osmotic pressure, so that it is useful in the maintenance of your homeostasis of extracellular fluid as well as intracellular fluid. Then it is a component of hydrochloric acid. It also acts as a coenzymes for few enzymes such like salivary amylase and pancreatic amylase. And in the abnormality of chloride metabolism, just like your sodium and potassium, here also you may have the hyperchloremia. The hyperchloremia is an electrolyte disturbance in which there is an elevated level of chloride ions in the blood will be noticed. Simply speaking, the chloride concentration in the blood will be increases. So generally this hyperchloremia is seen in the dehydration, Cushing syndrome, severe diarrhea, and renal tubular acidosis. So coming to the cause, dehydration, obviously you will lose the water, so that volume of the water will be decreases. So ultimately it will increases the tonicity or will be increases. So the in dehydration you will see the hyperchloremia. In Cushing syndrome, where you have the excessive secretion of mineralocorticoids, which will causes more absorption of chloride, which will ultimately leads to the increased concentration of chlorine in serum. And in the severe diarrhea, where more loss of bicarbonate will be seen, so these bicarbonates are the negative charge particles which are present in the intracellular fluid. So to compensate the retention, more chloride will be exchanged and this will be shunted into the extracellular fluid, so the concentration of chloride will be increases. And in the case of renal tubular acidosis, the mechanism is mentioned here. When the pH is decreases, it will inhibits your respiratory center, so that the breathing will be lower, and indirectly the concentration of carbon dioxide will be increases, and the bicarb to compensate this, the bicarbonate concentration will be increases in the extracellular fluid. So to compensate this, the chloride ions will be shunted into the extracellular fluid, thus causes the hyperchloremia. So here in this table we have mentioned the possible causes also. One is dehydration, second one is Cushing syndrome, where you have the excessive secretion of mineralocorticoids, which will cause more or reabsorption of chloride by the renal tubules. In severe diarrhea, due to the loss of bicarbonate, to maintain the compensatory retention, the chlorides will be shunted to the extracellular fluid. And in the renal tubular acidosis, so these are the possible causes for the hyperchloremia. And second condition where you see the lower concentration of chloride, known as hypochloremia, uh, the possible condition associated with this is vomiting, that is severe vomiting, excessive vomiting, where the hydrochloride is lost, so the plasma chloride will be lowered, and there will be an compensatory mechanism which will increases the plasma bicarbonate, and this condition is called as hypochloremic alkalosis. And excessive sweating along with sodium chloride also lost through your sweating, so the chloride concentration will be decreases. And in the case of Addison disease, where you the concentration of your aldosterone will be decreases, so there will be an more severe loss of chloride. The renal tubules is not able to reabsorb chloride, so the chloride concentration will be more in the urine. It ultimately causes decreased concentration of chloride in the blood. And an interesting clinical point, that is chloride channel and cystic fibrosis. We all knew what is cystic fibrosis. So here I think by this time you are knowing that the human body is made up of intracellular fluid and extracellular fluid. So among this, the water can be easily transported from the intracellular fluid into the extracellular fluid. But in case of your electrolyte, it may be sodium, or it may be sodium, or it may be potassium, or it may be chloride. So for all this, they required special channels should be present. So through channels only they will be transported. Now here, for the case of chloride, you are having a transporter known as chloride transporter, right? So this transporter will be synthesized by a gene known as chloride conducting the channel is known as CFTR gene. So in the mutation of these CFTR genes, the chloride channels will be defective and they will not be transport your chloride. So this will fails to maintenance of osmotic pressure, so the water will be transported from extracellular fluid into the intracellular fluid. So the same thing will be noticed in the case of cystic fibrosis. So here the water moves out of from the lungs and pancreas. This is responsible for the production of abnormality thick mucus, and this will further triggers your infection and progressive damage and death at young age will be seen. Simple thing to be noted is for the electrolytes we required the channels. In case of your CFTR gene mutation, the channels are not able to transfer your chloride, so this will causes the imbalance of your osmotic pressure, so the water from the intracellular fluid will be transported into the extracellular fluid. So in the case of your cystic fibrosis, the water will be transported from lungs and pancreas. And another important mineral as well as cation is the magnesium. So among the minerals, it is the fourth most abundant cation and second most prevalent intracellular cation. Mainly it is present in the intracellular fluid, and the total body of magnesium will be lies approximately 25 grams. Among this, 75% it will be associated with your calcium and phosphate and present in the bones and teeth. The remaining 30% it will be present in the ionic form, that will be in the intracellular fluid as well as in the other body tissues. Only 1% of magnesium present in the blood. And the requirement of magnesium, approximately 400 milligrams of magnesium is required for the adult men and 300 milligrams required for the women. And an interesting point, please remember, oral supplementation of magnesium will produces diarrhea, whereas intravenous which will causes the central nervous depression will be seen. Doses above 600 milligram may causes diarrhea, and the quantity requirement will be increases during lactation. And the major sources of magnesium will comes from the cereals, beans, leafy vegetables and fish. I think all you are very familiar that chloroquine present in the green leafy vegetables will made up of or consisting of your magnesium. So all the green leafy vegetables are rich in magnesium. And water is an another natural source of magnesium, and the water rich in magnesium will be salty and hard in its nature. And the and the concentration in the blood, the normal serum will be present here I'm mentioning is 1.8 to 2.2, but it may varies between 1.5 to 2.5 milligram per dl. And among them, the RBC will consisting of 5 milliequivalents per liter, whereas in the blood it is only lies between 1.5 to 2.5. So you can compare the magnesium content in the RBC is 3 times more when compared to the plasma, as it is an important intracellular cation. And in the muscle tissue it is consisting approximately 20 milliequivalents per liter. Among them, the magnesium will be present approximately 70% in the free state, remaining 30% will bind with the protein, among them 25% to the albumin and 5% to the globulin. Functions of magnesium. This magnesium is very important in carbohydrate metabolism. In the human body, approximately 300 enzymes are found to be dependent on magnesium for their action. So magnesium is the activator of many enzymes, especially in the ATP dependent reactions. It is must. Few examples are mentioned here: alkaline phosphatase, hexokinase, fructokinase, phosphofructokinase, adenyl cyclase, cyclic AMP. All these are required of your magnesium. And not only in the enzyme activation, but magnesium is also required in the muscle contraction, nerve conduction, and neuromuscular excitability. And the magnesium having a key role in the normal myocardial contraction to maintain the cardiac rhythm, and in the it is helpful in the maintenance of your normal BP. Here we have the slide which is showing when the test of your magnesium level should be measured. When you have the cardiac arrhythmia, along with the potassium, you also need to check the magnesium concentration. And in the resistant hypokalemia, pregnancy with preeclampsia, and tetonin, if not it is responding with the calcium and vitamin D therapy, then you need to check the magnesium status. Causes of magnesemia: when you have the more loss of magnesium through urine, that will be seen in the case of tubular necrosis, or when you have the hyperaldosteronism, familial hypomagnesemia. Here it will be associated with the other condition. And increased intestinal loss, that will be seen in the diarrhea, or when you are given the laxatives. In that condition, the more magnesium will be excreted. And when you have the ulcerative colitis or nasogastric suction or vomiting, all this will causes the loss of your intestinal content, that will lose your magnesium. In the case of liver cirrhosis and malabsorption and protein malnutrition, along with that, important point to be noted, there is toxemia of pregnancy, where you have the particularly high blood pressure in the case of pregnancy, also known as preeclampsia. So in this condition also, your concentration of magnesium will be high. And these drugs also causes your hypermagnesemia. And the causes of sorry, I was mistaken. These are the causes for your hypomagnesemia. And in the next slide, I am showing about the causes for hypermagnesemia. Excessive intake of magnesium, either it may be through oral or through parental, renal failure, hyperparathyroidism, oxalate poisoning, rickets, multiple myeloma, dehydration, and other drugs. These are responsible for your hypermagnesemia. Thank you. This completes today's class.